was the last time you went to the library? If it's been a while, this For the Record program is for you. Good morning, I'm Neil Heinen. We can probably divide the universe into two groups, people who go to libraries and people who do not. If you do not, we think you might be surprised by what you will learn this morning. Suffice to say, this is not your father's library. The Madison Community Foundation recognized this before a lot of other folks and has wisely invested a lot in our Dane County libraries, and you'll hear more about that. Vice President for Grant Making and Community Initiatives Tom Linfield joins me this morning, along with Deerfield Public Library Director Leah Fritchie. And thank you very much for joining me this morning. Leah, I have this picture in my head because when you talk to people, there are people who are just passionate about libraries and they go all the time, and there are people who don't go. People who go, this is going to be no surprise to. Right. But what is a library today? In the 21st century, what does a library look like?
We, as libraries, fill so many different roles. It still amazes me to think about it every time I go to work. You know, we obviously keep supplying people with materials that they can check out, books and DVDs and music to take home to do research or for fun or whatever. But we also have this whole technology aspect, and we are helping people get exposed to different kinds of technology, teaching them how to use it, how to get online, how to use a tablet, where you can find free information, providing information for them to access that they can get either from home or by visiting a library. And then we have some other interesting things, you know, the programming that we do where we have people come in and enjoy, you know, how to make a bat house and how to do chair yoga. And, you know, our library just did a program for children called the Stuffed Animal Campout, where kids drop their stuffed animals out for a night at the library. And our children's librarian took pictures and posted them on the website the next day to show what everybody's animals were doing at camp, which was a lot of fun. So we are fulfilling a role as a community gathering space where people can get what they need or find something interesting or learn something new. So I think that's the role we're filling.
So who's coming? Who's coming to the library in Deerfield?
Everybody. We've got families coming for our programming. We've got adults coming who have never touched a computer before in their life, and they found out they need to apply for a job online, and that's the only way they accept applications. So staff walks them through how to use a mouse, how to get online, how to fill out an application. You have people popping in real quick to grab something for the weekend. You have people coming in to use the free wireless as a spot to get their work done if they're a traveling salesman or working on a project. So students, adults, seniors, everybody.
This story just, I can't get it out of my head. There's a very popular band out of Seattle called The Head and the Heart. And they were talking about how they got together, and they rehearsed at the Seattle Library. Now, eventually they were asked to leave because they got a little loud. But for a number of months, they were able to go in there, and that's kind of where they got their start. Interesting use for a public library that you wouldn't typically think of.
And that's a trend that a lot of public libraries are moving towards. New libraries are building recording space so that kids can learn how to produce a song or an album, and then other community members can borrow the space when it's free to do whatever they need to do.
I mentioned, Tom, that the Community Foundation early on kind of identified libraries. Now that's, as the Community Foundation here is wont to do, kind of getting ahead of issues a little bit, and I think about food and water and some of the things you've invested in, but why libraries specifically?
We have 7 focus areas in our grant making, ranging from children to the elderly, environment, community building, learning. Libraries are the one place that we fund that fits all 7 categories. So that's the sort of the short answer. The longer answer is that libraries make great communities. Dane County is blessed. We have 28 libraries in Dane County. We have a bookmobile that goes to an additional 16 locations. There are 3 million materials. They circulate 9 million times. We have an extraordinary system. In fact, Fitchburg Library, which just opened last year, beautiful new $14 million library, one of only 2 new libraries in the nation that was added Many people are renovating their libraries. We're not only renovating them, we're adding new libraries. And I know the Madison Public Library System, which is comprised of 9 of these libraries, they're looking at growing in the next decade 2 more, moving, I think, further east in the city.
Tom, I mean, that would obviously suggest that that usage is increasing, and yet that seems counterintuitive.
It does. In fact, we had a board member early on when we were talking about doing something major, like the campaign we'll talk about this morning, say, is anybody still using libraries? And the answer is yes. They are thriving. Verona Library, when they built their new library, they tripled the amount of circulation in the first year. People are going, half of them are using computers. People are using the computers for genealogical research. There's free genealogy software, that's huge. They're using it for employment training. They're using it for educational materials. Kids are doing literacy on the computers, and people are doing looking for health information. So with the digital divide in this country, for those who don't have speedy internet access or a computer at home, they go to the library. But people are getting books on tape, large print books, graphic novels. If you can, if you're interested in the book Moby Dick, you can find the movie, the graphic novel, the abridged version, the full version, the annotated version, and what am I missing? I mean, here's one way to think about libraries. This is one of the ways I love to think about them, is to think of any other experience you have today in a big box space. If you're going to a large department store, or a home furnishings place, or Office Depot, or Home Depot, or Best Buy, you enter, and there are thousands of things that you could purchase. Is there somebody who can help you? Are they educated in terms of helping you? Do they want to help you, and do you trust them? When you go into the libraries, they love to help you. Librarians, they live to help you find what you need. And if they can't find you what you need there, they'll find it in the system, which is 52 libraries sharing materials. If they can't find it, they'll look throughout the state. If they can't find it, they'll go internationally. They live to say, how can we serve you? And if you're interested in something, maybe we can order it. It's a really different experience than any other sort of consumer experience one has these days.
Well, and it's also, it's a little mini escape. The thing about libraries for me is you go there and it's not near your phone. And the dog doesn't have to be let out, and it's not near the television set. You go and it's a little getaway.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because my wife and I, when we have a date night, we have 2 young children, and when we get a babysitter and we go on a date night, we often start it by going to our local library. We sit and we browse and we look at some magazines and we get some materials, and then we go to dinner and a movie. And it's that sort of that safe, comfortable third place.
Yeah. I've never been to the Deerfield Library. Is it a relatively new facility? Or?
No, the current building was built in 1993, and we are very small. The village of Deerfield is only 2,000 people, so the building is the size of the village, which means small. But we serve outlying populations that live in rural areas, plus Cottage Grove, which is not very far away, does not have a library, and a lot of residents use the Deerfield Public Library as their go-to place.
We'll talk more about physical space. It's interesting to me because some of the new libraries that we're seeing, the Sequoia branch is one that pops to mind, is just stunning, and it sort of adds to the whole experience. All right, we'll talk about that and the campaign when we come back right after this. We are talking about libraries this morning. That's right, 21st century libraries, and they are very 21st century indeed. My guest, Tom Linfield, Vice President for Grant Making with the Madison Community Foundation, and Leah Fritchie, who is the Director of the Deerfield Public Library. So talk about the Beyond the Page campaign. Tom, what is it?
The Beyond the Page campaign is an attempt to dramatically increase the amount of money for the entire county's library system for free programming, for humanities programming.
Maybe we should be clear here.
Yes.
Libraries, are they primarily tax funded? Is that how they're?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Municipal funding is primarily. Most of the libraries in the county have a friends group. I'm sure a lot of your viewers have gone to their book sales
that raise money to support the individual library.
Right, and some of the libraries have some small fundraising efforts. But that's, as the library directors, we first say we went to school for library science, not for fundraising. Yep. enter the Madison Community Foundation, where we have a lot of expertise in fundraising, and we work with a lot of donors who want to strengthen our communities. So we've been working with the libraries in a strong way over the last decade. First, we helped do capital gifts to all of these, to a dozen different capital campaigns, every one of them successful, even in the climate over the last few years. Then we said to librarians, what's next? How can we help strengthen libraries? And the answer was collections. So we did a major collections project in which each of the 28 libraries was asked to delve deeply into one specific subject. Deerfield did sports and nutrition, Verona did art and architecture, the Downtown Madison Library did business and entrepreneurship. They could burrow very deeply, get a lot of rich materials, but there were two rules. One, they couldn't duplicate, they all had to do something different, and two, they all had to be shared. I think that's an important thing to understand, is that when you enter your local library, it's quite literally the tip of an iceberg. So they might have several 100,000 materials there, but millions of materials are available at your fingertips. You can order anything online. They will, you order online what you'd like from the library. They will bring it to the library of your choice for free. It's through interlibrary loan. They email you when it's ready. And what I love is they email me when my book is due 2 days before it's due. You know, that sort of, you might want to remember, and then, or would you like to renew, and I can renew online. So the collections project was very successful, and it was really the first time that all the libraries were working together. They tend to work separately. And one of the things that the Madison Community Foundation is doing with all the nonprofits we work with is say, how can we build efficiencies? How can we collaborate? How can we enrich the whole? So after the positive evaluation for the collections project, we said, what's next? And one of the things the library talked about was programming. Now, the libraries right now offer 6,000 programs a year, serving over 200,000 people. And those programs range from what you typically think of, like a storytelling hour for children, but there are also foreign language storytelling hours. Verona last year did a storytelling hour in Chinese. They had 80 people show up the first day. As part of the collections project, Middleton did foreign languages. Well, they experimented with a Spanish language, foreign language storytelling hour. They now have that, it's a monthly offering. One of the other libraries in the Madison system did 6 different language storytelling hours. So the range of programming stems from the range of materials and the range of audience interests. There's life science. You can go and build sandcastles inside a library. You can play with live turtles. There's a wonderful program at Fitchburg called Read to a Dog. And this is for children who are not good or confident readers. They're very uncomfortable reading in front of their peers or to grown-ups. They bring in these trained therapy dogs with their guides. The children sit there. The children have absolutely no problem reading to the dog. Right. It's a phenomenal program. It's free. And it's in the library. We have no idea what the libraries are doing. They're hosting their historical societies. I think it's Cross Plains has their bluegrass group, comes and rehearses there. Every library that we funded in the last decade has built separate rooms in their library that they can open when the library is closed. They're for community gathering spaces. Some of them have kitchens. They're really, in many communities, serving as not just the library, but the youth center, a senior center, a space to convene, a space for their community.
How are you dividing this up, Tom? Is there a per library goal?
There is. So we are trying to raise $1.5 million. We worked with the libraries on a grant proposal to the National Endowment for the Humanities, and we received a $350,000 challenge grant. Okay. Very prestigious, only 20 grants awarded. We received one. We also learned that this is the first of its kind in the nation. We are the only county in the United States that is building a communal endowment like this. Each library has to raise $10,000. The Madison Community Foundation is working with all the libraries and leading the way on the major gifts. So I'm happy to announce that we have reached our $1 million goal, and we're trying to reach, the exact number right now is $1.4 million. So we are well on our way, and the libraries are doing a variety of sort of clever and innovative fundraising methods on their own. So if people are interested, they can support their local library, or they can support actually the entire library system.
What are you doing, Leah?
We are participating in the trivia program. That's going to be October 20th, which is a Saturday. Multiple libraries are collaborating on this project, which is really exciting. And this was actually born out of something that Deerfield does every year and has for the last 20 years. We have a trivia contest put on by our friends group every February. And the other libraries got excited about this as a fundraising opportunity. So
information's on the screen right now.
We will be encouraging people to get a team together, $10 entry fee per person, and come and see how much trivia you know, and winners will receive medals and bragging rights for the evening.
How big are the teams?
A limit of 10 people per team, but they can be smaller.
Okay, so this was Deerfield's idea. This was what to raise some money. Each library will end up with. Will there be a pot for each library, or
there will be one pot? So what we're hoping to do right now, the libraries, if you added all of the programming money up for the libraries, they have about $90,000 a year total for all 28 libraries. Half the libraries actually have no programming budget at all right now.
Right.
This will create an endowment that is large enough to yield an additional $70,000 a year to begin with. We hope that will grow over time. We're almost doubling the amount of money, and then all of the libraries have access to it. So they'll have access to it for small amounts to have authors come in or to pay for workshops. But what they're really going to have is a pot of money where they can get together and dream up collaborative projects, larger ideas. I'll give you an example. Verona Library had a 30-foot dinosaur skeleton in their library, and they did a month's worth of programming around it. And it was something that they had gotten a grant, I think, from the Smithsonian to show this. Well, what our hope is that we will have the funds to allow 4 or 5 libraries in the county to move that sort of exhibit around. We're doing a project coming up this fall in which Forward Theater, the theater group that's a part of Overture Center, they put on a monologue festival where they're going to produce part of that monologue festival in each of 5 different libraries. And this is the first time that those 5 libraries have collaborated in that way. We're doing another project right now that the Community Foundation is actually helping seed this year, which is outreach to populations that might not traditionally be using the libraries. So we have 4 different communities, and those libraries are going to send library staff to food pantries. While the parents are shopping, the children will get a storytelling hour. They'll also be able to sign them up for library cards, and they're going to give them free books. And what I love is they're going to give them 2 free books. 1 free book that day, and then they get a voucher to come into the library, and you get your other free book when you come to the library.
Great, yeah.
So growing audiences, diversifying audiences, and many of the populations that they're going to try to work with through this outreach are the populations that would just thrive, I think, and it's all free. I mean, I can't say that enough.
Yeah.
All of these libraries, everything they want to do is free. In fact, it's been hard to get them to fundraise because they're used to saying, it's free, we don't want to charge for our programs.
We're going to get the last break in here, and we'll come back and talk more about libraries right after this. I'm back with Tom Linfield and Leah Fritchie, and we're talking about libraries this morning on For the Record, and particularly the Beyond the Page campaign, which the Madison Community Foundation has launched to support libraries in the area. So you're about $400 million short, Tom. How could people help?
People can go to beyondthepage.info. They can first of all learn a lot more about what the libraries are doing, and they can learn more about the campaign. We also have brochures in every one of the libraries. In fact, the campaign is branded with this wonderful rabbit.
I recognize that rabbit.
In fact, this is a gift for you,
Neil.
Thank you, so wear it in health.
Yep,
but if you see this rabbit, we printed 500 of these, so every librarian in the county is wearing these shirts to drum up excitement and enthusiasm.
Very subtle color, by the way.
Very subtle,
too.
yes. We wanted to get your attention when you walk into the library. And they'll all be wearing them for a week in October in preparation for Trivia Night. They'll be wearing them in the spring as we hope to wrap up the campaign. As you mentioned, we're $400,000 away.
And you can go to the website, and contribute $10.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. In fact, what's nice is what we've been saying to people is because there are 28 libraries, try to think of a gift that serves all 28. So if you'd like to give $1 a library, that's $28. Yeah. If you'd like to give $10, $280, et cetera, et cetera. Sure. We've had donors send in $10, We've had some donors send in 10,000 per library.
Yeah.
So, you know, at the beginning of the show, you said that we break into two: people who use libraries and people who don't use libraries.
Right.
And what I love sitting with donors is, I have people say, oh, I don't use the libraries, but boy, do we love them.
Yeah.
They may not be going in, but they realize, you know, this, I mean, where do you want your children on a weeknight? You know, you don't want them on the corner.
Right.
You don't want them at loose ends. You want them in a library. Where do you want to go with your family? Where might you take your grandchildren? Libraries have so much to offer. So
I got to mention my friend Rick Brooks, who's doing the little libraries around town. And what I like about it is it just puts that into people's heads.
yes,
Libraries are this exchange of books, and
That's
it's
right.
where you go to get free books.
it's an exchange of books. It's an exchange of ideas. I mean, how many times have you seen a film and said, oh, you've got to see this movie.
Right.
You've got to read this book. I'm a huge music enthusiast, so I get a lot of music out of the libraries. The materials they have, one of the things we're working on is these humanities book backpacks. In fact, Leah is one of the leaders of this project. Do you want to say something about our brainstorming? And
Yes, I met with Tom last week and we started brainstorming some ideas with the Cross Plains Library about what these backpacks would consist of, and we're coming up with some really interesting ideas that are, these backpacks and kits are not just for children but for adults or people to share. So things like a backpack on Shakespeare and Shakespeare's time and Shakespeare's theater, or how to make your own book with examples of paper folding and materials and the tools you need. Or
So you pick up a backpack, you
Yeah,
take it
yeah.
home, and you find stuff on Shakespeare in there.
So
It's
there'll be
just
books
filled with-
too, but
yeah.
it's hands-on things that people can actually dig into and figure out how things work and how you do something, and you know, maybe eventually we'll tie programming in, so you have a guest come in to talk about, well, this is, you know, how you produce a play, or this is how you make your own book, or this is how genealogy happens. And
Very cool.
Yep.
Remind me when trivia night is again.
October 20th, which
Okay.
is a Saturday, 7 p.m.
Yep.
10 different venues,
10 different locations.
10 different locations,
And go online to find out where they are
and what library you'd like to
and
support.
how you can participate.
Yeah.
Go online to find out all kinds of stuff about the Beyond the Page program. Great, thank you very much for joining us, and good luck with the rest of this campaign.
thank you, Neil.
We're going to come back and wrap up For the Record right after this. My thanks to Tom and Leah for being here today. Speaking of libraries and reading, author Michael Perry will be here next week to talk about his new book. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you next Sunday.